Here are 8 major driving law changes hitting Texas in 2026 that could turn your next traffic stop into a felony conviction. If you're driving in the Lone Star State, what you don't know about these new Texas Transportation Code updates and Texas Penal Code, Section 49 modifications could literally cost you years behind bars. Let's start with the big one that's already catching drivers off guard. As of January 1st, getting a DWI in a school crossing zone isn't just a misdemeanor anymore, it's now a state jail felony. Senate Bill 826 changed everything. Before, you'd face a Class B misdemeanor with maybe 72 hours in jail. Now you're looking at 6 months to 2 years in a Texas state jail and up to $10,000 in fines. Judge Schroed put it perfectly when he said a state jail felony isn't as high as a third degree, which a DWI third would be, but it's still a felony. But here's what makes this law particularly brutal. It only applies when the reduced speed limit is in effect around schools. So if you're driving through that school zone at 7 in the morning when kids are arriving and you get pulled over for DWI, you just went from a misdemeanor to a felony. The state treats this the same way they treat DWI with a child passenger, and frankly, it makes sense from a safety standpoint. The DWI crackdown doesn't stop there. Senate Bill 745 has completely restructured intoxication manslaughter penalties, and this one's a doozy. If you kill more than one person while driving drunk in the same incident, you're now looking at a first-degree felony instead of multiple second-degree felonies. What's the difference? Second-degree felonies carry 2 to 20 years. First-degree felonies carry 5 to 99 years or life in prison. That's the same punishment range as murder. Judge Schroed explained it this way. Normally, that would have been a second-degree felony, and there would be 2 counts. Now they can charge you with a first-degree felony. The message from Austin is crystal clear. Texas is done playing games with drunk drivers who kill people. Speaking of drunk driving enforcement, police now have expanded authority to execute blood warrants across county lines. Senate Bill 1886 means that if you refuse a breathalyzer under Texas's implied consent law, officers can get that warrant executed even if they have to cross into another county. This refusal also triggers an automatic administrative license revocation hearing, separate from your criminal case. No more delays, no more evidence getting compromised because of jurisdictional red tape. Now let's talk about something that's going to affect every new driver in Texas, starting September 2026. Senate Bill 1366 requires all driver education courses to include comprehensive work zone safety training. This isn't just a checkbox. We're talking about detailed instruction on the dangers of construction zones, the penalties for speeding through them, and real-world scenarios that could save lives. This law exists because construction zone accidents are absolutely devastating. Workers are out there trying to make our roads better, and drivers flying through at highway speeds are putting lives at risk. The new curriculum will drill into students' heads that when you see those orange cones, everything changes. Here's where things get interesting for our senior drivers. Starting July 2026, Texas is implementing new renewal rules specifically for drivers age 70 and older through the Texas DPS Driver License Division. Now, before you start panicking about age discrimination, hear this out. Drivers age 70 to 74 can still renew remotely in most cases, but once you hit 75, you're generally required to renew in person at a DPS office. The reasoning is actually pretty sound. In-person renewals allow for vision screenings and give officials a chance to spot potential red flags that might not show up in a digital renewal. Texas has one of the fastest-growing senior populations in the country, and officials say these rules reflect modern health standards and longer life expectancy. They're not trying to take licenses away. They're trying to keep everyone safe while preserving independence for seniors who can still drive safely. Let's pivot to something that's already saving lives on Texas highways: variable speed limits. House Bill 1885, which came out of the tragic 2021 Fort Worth pileup, allows the Texas Transportation Commission to temporarily lower speed limits during dangerous conditions. We're talking about weather, construction, heavy traffic, or other hazardous situations. That Fort Worth crash was absolutely devastating. 133 vehicles, 6 people dead, at least 65 injured on a 35W. The National Transportation Safety Board investigation determined that ice accumulation caused the pileup. But here's the kicker. Their data showed that as freezing rain started falling, the average speed in one lane exceeded 100 miles per hour. 100 miles per hour on ice. Think about that for a second. Representative Terry Canales, who wrote the bill, told the Texas Tribune he believed variable speed limits could have prevented the entire incident. Now we've got these smart signs on highways like I-35W and US 54 in El Paso that can drop the speed limit when conditions get dangerous. The signs can't lower the limit by more than 10 miles per hour below the regular posted speed, but even that difference can mean the gap between making it home safely and becoming a statistic. Real ID enforcement is now in full swing, and if you're one of the 2% of Texans without a compliant license, 2026 is when you're really going to feel it. Starting May 2025, you needed that gold star on your license to fly domestically, and now airports and federal buildings are getting stricter about enforcement. Texas has actually been ahead of the curve here. 98% of licenses issued by DPS are already Real ID compliant. The Real ID Act came out of 9/11 Commission recommendations, and these cards have enhanced security features that make them much harder to counterfeit. If you see a gold circle with a star in the upper right corner of your license, you're good to go. If not, you better get to a DPS office. Vehicle registration is getting a major overhaul too. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles unanimously voted in February 2026 to implement new identification requirements. You now need proof of legal status to register a vehicle in Texas. This was pushed by State Representative Brian Harrison specifically to prevent undocumented immigrants from registering vehicles. Travis County Tax Assessor Celia Israel has said her office won't enforce the rule until it's properly authorized, citing concerns about increased fraud and uninsured drivers. So enforcement is going to vary by county for now, but the writing's on the wall. This is coming statewide. The licensing system itself is getting modernized through the Texas by Texas platform. More transactions are moving to digital processing, which should speed things up for everyone. They're also maintaining the black laser-engraved Real ID star and tamper-resistant polycarbonate material to prevent counterfeiting. For teen drivers, the rules haven't changed much under the graduated driver license program, but enforcement is getting tighter. 14 and 15-year-olds can get learner permits, 16 and 17-year-olds can progress to provisional licenses, and adults, 18 to 24, still need that 6-hour driver education course. Vision requirements remain 20/40 with or without corrective lenses. Here's something that might surprise you. Texas actually has some of the most lenient DWI laws in the country, which makes these new penalties even more significant. We're an at-fault insurance state requiring 30/60/25 coverage, and our highways regularly have speed limits of 70 miles per hour or higher. State Highway 130 even has sections with 85 miles per hour speed limits. But when it comes to drunk driving, Texas isn't messing around anymore. Odessa police made 605 DWI arrests in 2025, up from 591 in 2024. Statewide, we see one alcohol-related traffic death every 7 hours and 43 minutes. In 2022, over 42% of all traffic fatalities were linked to drunk driving, making Texas the third worst state in the nation for drunk driving deaths. These numbers are exactly why lawmakers are throwing the book at drunk drivers. When you combine the school zone felony upgrades, enhanced manslaughter penalties, and expanded warrant authority, Texas is building a legal framework designed to get repeat offenders off the road permanently. The bottom line for Texas drivers in 2026 is this: the stakes are higher than ever. What used to be misdemeanor mistakes can now result in felony convictions and years in prison. The state is investing in technology like variable speed limits to prevent accidents. But when prevention fails, the punishment is swift and severe. Whether you're a teen getting your first license, a senior renewing after decades of driving, or someone who occasionally has a drink before driving home, these laws change everything. Texas roads are getting safer, but only if you're following the rules. Break them, and the consequences will follow you for the rest of your life.